Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
And Amy Cornell.
And this show, our shows are always inspired by something, either an author that I talked to or somebody that Amy spoke to. This show in particular is inspired by Reddit. So we love Reddit. We're always on Reddit. So one of the things that I love about Reddit is it's such an interesting place to get to know what authors are really struggling with. I mean, you and I kind of know that, obviously, because we talk to authors all the time. But Reddit is sort of a next level of seeing what people are struggling with just kind of on a daily or weekly basis. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, you have to consider, even though we work with authors that kind of cover the full spectrum in terms of how long they've been in the industry, the types of topics or genres, all the kind of things. We still work with authors that are at a place where they are exploring collaborating with a team, you know?
Right.
So I think Reddit is a great place for us to go and get viewpoints from a perspective of somebody that isn't at that point yet, or that's already committed to doing everything on their own.
Yeah.
You know, so kind of approach some things from different angles. And it's definitely very insightful.
Yeah, it really is very insightful. And this one in particular that I found a couple of days ago was an author who had been working on their books for 4 years and lost everything overnight. No warning, no second chances. And it really struck a nerve with me because as an author myself, like this would be my worst nightmare. What I think is happening, and a lot of people chimed in on this string, both some people just in support because they were all equally horrified, but then other people chimed in like, oh, well, I know somebody that this has happened to and blah, blah. And we're going to break down the story, but I think what's happening is I think that Amazon is just becoming a little overzealous in they're protecting their site from content generated by AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and unfortunately, Amazon does not do anything with precision. I mean, like that they'll take a sledgehammer to, you know what I'm saying? Like they're just, and then, because it was the same thing with the review polling thing where a lot of authors like legitimately had all these reviews and then Amazon was like, no. And then overnight, all the reviews are gone. Maybe on the rest of their site, like I can't speak for every single page on their website, but in the author's corner, it's always a sledgehammer. So, the author had, it's just unbelievable. This author had 30 nonfiction books on Amazon for 4 years. The account was banned for a single book flagged for misleading metadata. Like it wasn't even like your cover's awful, dude, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a flagrant violation. It was just like, oh, you're skirting the line, so we're going to stop this.
Right, exactly. The book did reference a popular influencer in the subtitle. Okay.
Which I thought that was interesting. I can't honestly, Penny, and I feel like I've seen a lot. I can't honestly say I've seen that before. So that stood out. Yeah.
Yeah, that really stood out to me. And as I read through the post, the author said, well, but the influencer was credited and was not necessarily part of the book. So the influencer hadn't written the book, like co-authored the book, but was like the inspiration or mentioned throughout the book or whatever. The author tried to appeal. Amazon rejected the appeal and closed the account. Not only that, lost all his royalties.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't they say the past 2 royalty checks were just not going to come through?
Yes.
Oof.
And this author had said in this post that he was making a relatively decent living off of his books on Amazon. Right. So
yeah, he said it was a reasonable, like a notable portion of his income. So he was doing pretty well,
He was doing pretty well. And one of the things, so if you're listening to this and you're you've stopped whatever you're doing and you're just as horrified as we were, we are going to break down why this happens. This isn't just like, not everybody is going to be on this. Not everybody is going to get this email from Amazon. It just is a matter of, I think that the tiny little bit of misleading information was something, as I said, that the Amazon sledgehammer just, you know, ended up ruining this guy's career essentially. So part of the issue is, one of the comments in this Reddit string said that, this is really hard, especially when Amazon is your only income stream for self-published authors. I mean, let's face it, Amazon is the number one place to sell books, to place your book. Like, people say, I want to be on Kobo, I want to be in all the things, and that's fine. That's great. But Amazon still sells the lion's share of books. There was no warning. So it wasn't like, hey, take that off your subtitle. And this wasn't even about pirated content or fake reviews. It was just the presentation. But as I said, I think that Amazon is cracking down on. So what's happening with this AI stuff, and we covered it, I think, a couple of shows ago, is that people are actually taking existing books. So let's say anything that's on the bestseller list right now, and they're uploading them to ChatGPT. I don't know, or whatever AI system that they use, and they're asking Chat to essentially rewrite it. And in some cases, so republishing the book without the author's permission is pirating. So that's a different kind of a thing. And that's something that authors have battled as long as we've been in business. But this is where they literally upload the book and ask Chat to rewrite it. And Chat does that, and probably does a very poor job of it, because I'm sorry, but much as we love ChatGPT, you can't just throw something like that and expect it to be perfect. Even on the shorter stuff that we do, there's a lot of editing. But anyway, these books are getting thrown up on Amazon, and they're essentially cheating the system. So a couple of weeks ago, there were a couple of books that were actually on USA Today and the New York Times bestseller list, mistaken for the original books, and hitting the bestseller list and selling books. I mean, it's a problem, right? It's such a problem. So Amazon is flagging. So there's a few things that Amazon is flagging. So the first is, the misleading metadata. And it can show up, and Amy, I want you to speak about that. Cover and title, right? So
Yes.
do you want to take this one? Because I know we both have strong feelings about covers, but you mentioned something in the green room that I thought was really made me laugh, but it was also really so spot on.
Yes. Okay. So a cover that is too similar in design to a popular book, basically, we've talked about this plenty of times. Amazon wants to sell stuff. They want to sell lots. They want to make a ton of money.
Yes.
So they want to make it easy for the customer, the shopper, to make buying decisions and to click buy and check out. And so confusion, unless Amazon causes it themselves, is not allowed. So having a similar cover to especially a popular book, I think, will definitely put you in their sites a lot quicker. But what we were talking about before the show, there are, and for me, it's obviously easy to spot. They just make me cringe, but I bet a lot of y'all listening have seen them too. There are some cover designs out there that are straight up like template covers, and so many authors, unfortunately, have used them, and they don't even bother to change the font style, or, you know what I mean? And so they're quite literally just duplicates of the same exact concept over and over again, but insert, your title instead of, so but I'm so glad that, out of all of this, I feel for this author. I feel for anybody that's getting banned. I can't say I'm particularly upset about the fact that they're cracking down on authors having to show up with a proper cover that is a unique concept. I'm kind of glad that we've reached the point where it's like, okay, we've been saying it's not okay for so long, Penny. And sometimes it feels a little justified when it's like, Amazon caught up and they said it's not okay now too.
Right, exactly. And it took Amazon, literally it took AI overtaking the overtaking the book inventory for Amazon to finally do this. But the other thing is, though, too, is that, and this is not, and as you said, this is not a new thing. I talked to an author a couple of years ago who was like, I said, "Oh, your cover look." I don't know if I mentioned this to you even. I'm sure I did, but I was like, "Oh, your cover looks so familiar." And it looked familiar because it was exact replica, similar genre to Stephen King, and it was an
Oh
exact
no.
of one of his books. And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you really need to just pull back on like." But my book is just like Stephen King. I'm like, "Yeah, great, that's awesome," but you cannot literally you cannot copy his cover. And so that's where Amazon, like, and I understand, you get desperate, like, I just want to sell books, I want to be blah blah, like, I get it. But now Amazon's, and part of the reason why the cover is so important is because the majority of these misleading AI generated books are not taking the time to really do the research, right? And we talked about that before. So subtitle abuse. So as the case in this poor guy who had all of his books pulled, I'm going to keep following that string because I hope that Amazon reverses it, but I just don't know. Again, Sledgehammer, I just don't know that they ever will. So y'all, I love subtitles. Can we just be clear? Like, I love me some subtitles, but you cannot name drop public figure names. Like, I remember one time, and this is sort of like very different. The majority of public figures will call you out if Amazon doesn't, right?
Mhm.
We had an author misuse Oprah's name, right? Because
Hmm.
his book was mentioned in a very tiny little corner of one of her magazines. And so he was name dropping Oprah like all over the place. And that was right. And he got a letter from Harpo and all this other stuff. Now, like this was 20 years ago. So fast forward to, 2025 and we're all battling, fake books. Amazon is your new Oprah. They will not send you a letter. They will just say bye-bye and you're done. So, and also potentially manipulative. And this is where we did a show a couple of weeks ago. I know we're going to get more into that about how sometimes manipulative, apparently I can't talk today, sometimes subtitles can be,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think that nonfiction and self-help, obviously for genre fiction, your subtitles are not generally going to be manipulative unless you say soon to be a Hallmark movie and it's not, or it's a
Right.
bestseller and it's not, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and then it implied misrepresentation. Do you want to take that one?
Yes. So this is interesting too because I've okay, sorry. Now I'm like when they have 8 million things going on in your brain at the same time and they all need to come out somewhat like,
Coherently, right? Yeah.
right. Okay, because I wanted to say I've personally experienced this as the A plus content process was evolving, after Amazon released that for self-published authors.
Hmm.
And they were really kind of tweaking the rules for a while and what they were allowing, what they weren't. It was really interesting. Their terms of use for A plus content definitely shifted as they try to figure out what they would allow and probably honestly internally how they were able to vet it. But so implied results, outcomes, endorsements that aren't verified, these are things that are very much filtered through with A plus content. So this is interesting that now Amazon apparently is cracking down and finding ways to pull this out of other aspects of your retail page. So endorsed by, as seen on, get rich like, guarantees for sales or making money. I mean, we've talked about this on a recent show recently because Amazon has been cracking down on bestseller claims
Yeah.
and sales claims. I sold this many copies. Amazon is really they're not allowing that anymore. And that's interesting, again, from knowing that this has been something that they've been filtering out for the A plus content. And now that they're clearly filtering it out for a lot of other aspects of the retail page, I find it very interesting that they're expanding this. It doesn't surprise me, but it does make sense. And, it's worth saying, misleading, as we're talking about this, as I'm sure the original poster that Penny saw on Reddit, it doesn't mean bad intentions, so misleading really doesn't mean that you're an awful person that's trying to trick everybody and game the system, but it's more along the lines of could an average shopper browsing, and keep that in mind too. I think that's important, Penny. These people are browsing, they're scanning, and that's something that Amazon keeps in mind as well. So if it's something that could reasonably be misunderstood based on how a typical shopping experience goes, they're going to say this isn't happening. They're going to call you on.
Right, exactly. And Amazon must have some kind of a back-end system. So like on my books, my Amazon author formula books, they say, we'll teach you how to, you will be able to hear the things. So it's not that you can't say that you can't talk about what the benefits of the book are going to give the reader, because I'm very sure that Amazon has some really spiffy AI system that will literally scan through the book and know whether or not that actually is true. And I'm always very careful about not misrepresenting the book. Like we don't like there's nothing in on my retail pages that talks about book sales or like, oh, you're just going to sell so many books. It's going to be awesome, because I don't want to be getting those. First off, I would never do that. But secondly, I didn't sell 100,000 books like your book said I would, and that's where
we don't have time for that kind of email.
we don't have time for that kind of email. Yeah, it's really, it's a very interesting thing. And can I just say, could we just take this whole misrepresentation to every page on Amazon, no matter what? And let's just start with supplements. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm gonna be totally on my soapbox. Soapbox will burn fat in 4 hours or something. I mean, Amazon, y'all, like you're always cracking down on authors. Could we do the same thing on all of your pages? Because
Amen. Yeah, I feel like books get the worst of it for sure.
always. But
Yeah.
yeah, they always get the worst of it. If Amazon wants a list, I will send them a list of things that I think they need to really like. Here, try these supplements first, and you tell me if they're allowed to use that verbiage on their page. Right.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think, so how to protect yourself. That's the first, most important part of this is go through and audit your metadata, and not just, we always refer to metadata as what's on the back end of Amazon when you upload your book or wherever you've uploaded your book to. But I think really doing a critical self-assessment of your book descriptions, your subtitle, make sure that it's not worth pushing the envelope. And again, if your book delivers on that, then it should be in your description for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But get rich like whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, over promising. Don't say that you've got a Netflix deal in the works just because you got one of those spam emails. Like that doesn't count either.
Oh my gosh. Can I just tell you how many I still get so many Netflix deals? So when the Amazon author formula workbook came out, I got so many deals from Netflix. You can't even, I should be doing this podcast from my home in the south of France. So I think that, make sure that you're not, never compare your book to other authors, especially in the book description. Like if you liked blah, blah, you'll like this. No.
Right.
Right.
And I will say, Penny, too, I think that, as we came to know with when we went to update your bio on Amazon, doing something new on Amazon, I feel like you are the ones that are the new stuff definitely is more under the microscope than the older stuff.
Yes.
So I would say if you're listening and you have yet to release a book or you have a book coming out soon or anything like that, definitely take these extra careful. I mean, yes, do all this auditing, even if your book is already out, like double check what you can possibly control or fix or might be wrong. But if you have a book coming out soon, definitely pay attention to these, because I feel like Amazon puts anything new or any changes much like it's under the microscope, even more so than things that are already established on the site.
Right. Exactly. And then, so cover design, Amy, you want to take that? I know I keep throwing the cover design to you. I also have strong feelings about this one too, but go for it.
No, but this is important. Avoid, like Penny said, at some point you just get so tired of dealing with your own book and you're just ready to move on to the next phase. But don't skip on the importance of a cover. Don't just jump on Canva and grab a template and run with it as is by inserting your title. You know, don't copy layout or typography. Like, we talk about doing market research a lot, and we're huge fans of doing market research in on who is successful in your category and what they're doing right. But there is a line, you know, and like Penny's example of the author that was like, no, my book's very much like Stephen King. This is very, you know, it's like, that's crossing a line.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going, that is not the right way to go about marketing and branding your book to the right audience. So we're big fans of hiring a designer that has original concepts, that don't use lookalikes. You know, Canva can be tempting, so can pre-made covers, but in some of those pre-made covers I that I've seen, Penny, actually can be solid, but not all sites offer the guarantee that they're one-time use. So I think that's really important. So if you're going to a site that has covers available for purchase that they'll customize for you, make sure there is a guarantee that these are a one-time use situation, you know?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. But the other thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we don't want lookalike templates. We want unique books. But I do think that, you know, a lot of, and traditional publishers do this too, is they will follow the trending book wave in terms of what their cover looks like. So we're not necessarily saying that you should not look like your competitors, because that now feeds into the reader psychology, you know what I mean? Like how readers select books and things. So you should look like you belong on the shelf without being a copycat. And I know we just made making a cover 10 times harder, but it's worth your time if you can, you know, if you can find that sweet spot. So clickbait phrases, ultimate guide, guaranteed results, approved by, and usually the approved by is followed by a celebrity name, so that can also be risky. The thing that I think, I mean, at some point in my mind, I think Amazon is going to get enough complaints that they're going to have to kind of pull back on this sledgehammer way of removing books. And they're going to ask you for proof. So, like when authors who have bestseller claims on their books, or I've sold 1 million copies or whatever, they will ask those authors, typically, that has been my experience up to this point anyway, they will ask those authors for proof. Now maybe they're just yanking them off the site. I don't know.
Yeah, that's dangerous. They do that for awards too, I will say. That's another big one in the A+ content that if you want to talk about an award, it has to have been awarded within the last calendar year.
Yes.
So they're not messing around. Like, you don't get to claim an award that you got 5 years ago for a different book and be like, I'm an award-winning author. It's like, you might be, but Amazon says there's no place for that in your A+ content for this latest title.
Right, exactly. So I think the other thing is that you want to make sure that you have proof. Right. So whatever the claims are, if your book has been endorsed, if the forward is written by, I don't know who, like Stephen King, whatever, you better make sure that you have that you have proof. Do you want to take the next one, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, in this one, I don't mind a little shameless self-promotion. Honestly, we say it all the time. It's so easy to get too close to your own work to be like totally objective about this. So if in doubt, after you've done your audit and you're still like, I don't know, I'm not sure, or after you pull away the things that you think might put you over the edge and you're like, well, now my book sounds boring. Give us a call, talk to a marketer or an editor even, and have them help you review your metadata to make sure that it hypes up your book, but in really genuine, unique, interesting ways that don't rely on some of the phrasing and things like that we've covered that can get you in trouble. And that's really hard to do sometimes when it's your own work. You know, you really do know it too well in order to talk about it. It's kind of like when you have to talk about yourself. For most people, that's really uncomfortable. And it's very similar to do for your book. Not that you're uncomfortable talking about your book, but you see it in a different light and through a different lens. So it's worth like chatting with somebody that might be able to give you a different perspective and say, you know what I feel is really great about your book and things you should highlight are X, Y, and Z. And those may be things that you completely never would have come up with on your own. And it's going to make your book stand out and keep you out of trouble.
Right, exactly. And the other thing though, too, is I think, it's worth, and this is not just about promoting us and the fact that, you could hire us for a consultation or whatever. But you really want to so a lot of times authors will rely too heavily on AI. And I know in
Hmm.
particular, chat loves to inflate everything. And Amy and I've had this discussion before. Like, you can always tell, there are two ways that you can always tell that something has been put through chat GPT. The one is all the friggin' emojis that chat uses, like it's just the weirdest thing in the world. And then the fact that chat always inflates and makes things sound sometimes 10 times bigger, better than maybe they actually are. Like it feels,
Right? It's trying to serve everyone Kool-Aid.
yeah, like you've really, there's a lot. That's why I said, you generally, I mean, chat's super helpful, brainstorming all the things, but sometimes it's really, I mean, in the majority of cases, it's really hard to use something from there verbatim. And I think that some authors are, and that's where they're also, getting into trouble. So, so obviously, if this happens, it's terrible. You're going to get in touch with Amazon. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but maintain copies of all your book files and metadata. I cannot tell you how many times that Amy and I have onboarded an author who's going to be working with us and we need a copy of their book file and they can't find it or they don't have it or it wasn't actually given to them. So if you work with a publisher, any publisher, I don't care who they are, your book file should be part of what they give you. Okay, that's absolutely. Save all your metadata, make sure that you have it. And I mean, to tell you something, this even happens to me too. Like when somebody, because we're doing obviously in-house, but we're doing a blog tour for the workbook right now. And the influencer who's on the team who's doing this tour, she's like, oh, I need a copy of your book file. And by the time you publish a book, you have 18 different versions of that. I'm sorry, but you just have so many different versions of that file. Amy probably doesn't because she's much better at deleting stuff than I am. And you're scrambling, you're like, oh, where is it? That's fine as long as you have a copy of your book file for sure. So somebody on the Reddit string was like, oh, you should just go wide and wide will save you. And by going wide means, making sure that your book is off of Amazon. And that's fine. But Amazon is the biggest seller, of books. I mean, they sell like 98% of ebooks. So that's not a solution, unfortunately. And I think that, having a flexible plan, making sure that you're doing all the right things. But this is another reason why authors need to build, you have a website, have an email list, make sure that, if something happens, you're not going to be able to contact all of your readers, but make sure that you're not just sitting there without anything, wondering what you're going to do now after you spent all this amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other thing that I will say too is that even though, yes, this author was told that the Amazon bans are final and all this other stuff, I just always think that the squeaky wheel. So make sure that you have, that's why you want to have all your metadata, like, because you want to go back to Amazon and say, where did I go wrong? Now, obviously, if you've cheated the system, which you're probably not listening to this podcast anyway, our listeners do not cheat the Amazon system. But if somebody is cheating the Amazon system, Amazon's going to shoot you down and be like, no, you're done. We're done here. But if you legitimately have a question, or you legitimately did get that celebrity endorsement that you mentioned in your book description, I would present it to Amazon. It's not going to be easy, but I would present, and this is what I encourage this author to do who posted on Reddit. I'm like, don't, because he has so many books, I mean, 30 books. I mean, good Lord, right? So go after Amazon, right?
Yep. I agree. We tell our clients that all the time, and I can tell you 9 times out of 10, they end up getting something resolved, but
for sure.
it sometimes takes getting the right person. And so it's like Groundhog Day, or you act like a toddler and you just keep asking until you get the answer you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great analogy. Yeah. Be the toddler that goes back to like, why? And the thing about it is though, and I've had issues, like I had to contact Amazon with my recent book launch over the file that was uploaded, and it was and sometimes Amazon's system has been glitchy. Like sometimes the system is just glitchy and you have to contact Amazon and it's really, really weird. And just be prepared to be patient and keep kicking keep kicking this up higher and higher in the Amazon system. And eventually, because we've had two major situations with authors, both involving books that were either severely miscategorized. The author that we've worked with a few times, and she had this beautiful, sweet, lovely children's book that was put in erotic romance, right? Got that fixed. Took a while. And then the other one was an author who actually had a book pulled for different reasons, and it took a while, but that got fixed. So sometimes it can take a while. I don't know if necessarily, unless you're legitimately cheating the system, if these are final, right? So I think Amazon will tell you that just to shut people up. I think Amazon does a lot of things that should shut people up. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, don't let this, so we don't want this show to scare you. It just is a matter. It just is, it's just good to be a little self-aware when it comes to what you're putting up on your Amazon retail page, because Amazon is paying attention, and not always in a good way. Like I said, the Amazon sledgehammer hits far and wide.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for tuning in. It is such a pleasure we love this podcast. I can't tell you, I think we have such a good time putting together show ideas and stuff, and we love your feedback. So send us an email. The email details are in the show notes. And Amy, so smart, she found a really cool, easy way to leave a review on iTunes, and she has also posted that in the show notes. So
I know we put some helpful tips in there for you, because we know how frustrating that is, and we get the emails. From people, I really wanted to leave a review, but I couldn't figure it out. And it's like no shame at all. When I thought, you know what, why don't we find some simple instructions that'll hopefully help some y'all that have tried and maybe gave up. So
yeah,
we appreciate it.
Yeah. So so anyway, we love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.